Welcome back to the Anger Man podcast with Jason and Greg. So, big night for Jaron Ennis last night. He was victorious over David Avanesyan by fifth round stoppage, fifth or sixth round. The doctor deemed that David Avanesyan could not continue after the fifth round or between the fifth and the sixth round. And so, it was a great night for those who were in attendance at the Wells Fargo Center. Now, I do want to point out a couple of things about Jaron Ennis' performance, and that's going to lead me into the statements that were made via Twitter last night by Terence Crawford. Now, Ennis came out boxing initially, and he looked good. Low blow there in the first round, but that was driven by the fact that David Avanesyan forced his head down, which made the shot stray low. It is what it is. Second round, his dad told him, "Hey, look, you can walk this guy down. Basically, that's easy work for you." And Jaron started to walk him down with some great combination punching as well. He went upstairs, downstairs. He switched from orthodox to southpaw, and really did some amazing body work there. And later in the fifth round, he caught David Avanesyan with a straight left hand and dropped him. And that was all she wrote. Broke his jaw. So I'm assuming that David Avanesyan had to go to the hospital. Now, the things that I want to point out relative to Boots in this fight last night is that his timing did look off. He mentioned that after the fight, during the post-fight press conference, or the post-fight interview, rather. And I agree with that wholeheartedly, because I mentioned that during the fight when I was, talking back and forth with Jason and just examining the fight. I said to myself, he looks off. His timing looked off. And I believe that was a part of the reason why we saw him get caught. Like, even when he was trying to catch the shots, the timing just looked a little bit off. Now, I will say this. I've seen Jaron Ennis in the past get caught by lesser opponents. That was one of the reasons why I was questioning his defense at one point, because I'd seen him get caught many times by lesser opponents. I'm like, man, what's going to happen when you get hit by someone that can crack and someone who is a better fighter? But then in the Villa fight, he showed me exactly where his defense is. He has really, really, really good defense. So I think, in part, the reason why he was getting caught last night was because when Ennis doesn't see an opponent as a threat, he becomes really, really, really offensive minded. And last night, I think he was in offensive mind mode. He mentioned after the fight that he knew he was stronger than the guy, that it was just a matter of time before he broke him down. And I truly believe that right from the first round, Ennis realized that, David Avanesyan couldn't really hurt him. And so he just kept walking to him and throwing, kept walking and throwing. He wasn't like pump, and then getting ready to slip a shot or, concerned about what was coming back. And that's why he got caught several times. But during those stretches where they were exchanging and he was trying to catch shots, yeah, his timing didn't really look good to me, in my personal opinion. I just think his timing was a little off. I think the ring rust did affect him. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him in his next fight. Now, let's transition to the comments by Terence Crawford. Let me pull these comments up, because maybe my take is a little bit different from other people's take on this. And I heard it during the press conference, people talking about this. And this is where I get to the point where it's just like, for me, I don't feel that people have the ability to actually understand what someone is saying, right? They can't get the context clues out of what they're saying. Sometimes people's minds are so black and white that they literally can't follow, right? And so what was presented, well, let me say this. This is what Terence Crawford said, right? World-class fighter now, huh? My double standards be crazy. At Eddie Hearn, you talk good, right? So many people that were at the fight presented that as Terence Crawford saying that Jaron Ennis is not a world-class fighter. So this may be a first on the channel. No, actually, it's not a first on the channel. But I'm going to defend Terence Crawford. That's not what Terence Crawford was saying. Terence Crawford was not questioning the world-class status of Jaron Ennis. All you have to do is actually read the statement. Let me read the statement again. World-class fighter now, huh? He meant huh, but he said huh. My double standards be crazy. At Eddie Hearn, you talk good. Dude, what Terence Crawford is talking about is Eddie Hearns referring to David Avanesyan, or the telecast referring to David Avanesyan as a world-class fighter. He wasn't talking about Jaron Ennis. He was talking about people classifying David Avanesyan as a world-class fighter. So he was not ripping Jaron Ennis. That's not what he was saying. Now, here's the only pushback that I have to Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, you said he was a world-class fighter when you fought him. That's what you said. Now, I get it. Other people said that, picked at the man's name, said he wasn't a world-class fighter, so forth and so on. Personally, I don't think he's a world-class fighter. But at this moment, guess what? Every Terence Crawford and every Terence Crawford fan has to accept that David Avanesyan is a world-class fighter. And if you're saying that he's not a world-class fighter, then you're also then admitting that that fight that he made with him back then should have been an issue. You should have been ripping him for that fight, fighting somebody who's not a world-class fighter when you had the opportunity to fight Jaron Ennis back then, because there were a number of fighters that were higher in the WBO ranking, right? So at the end of the day, he has to be classified as a world-class fighter by Terence Crawford fans, but Crawford was not ripping Jaron Ennis. Let's not make fake news, guys. Let's not make up fake news. And some of you, I cannot blame you. I truly cannot blame you for what it is that you say, because you lack the ability to understand context clues or to understand statements holistically in a context where we've heard this individual talk in the past, and holistically, what is he saying? What has he communicated to you holistically? Stop taking these isolated comments, these snippets from fighters, and then saying that the fighter means this by, when in reality, holistically, this fighter has said X, right? And even if you didn't understand what Terence Crawford has said, or a lot of the comments made by Terence Crawford in the past, even just looking at that comment, that snippet there on Instagram, you should not get that he is saying that Jaron Ennis is not a world-class fighter. That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. So you guys may feel differently about that, but he's basically talking about David Avanesyan, the fact that David Avanesyan is now getting credit for being a world-class fighter, when he fought him, David Avanesyan was considered, quote-unquote, a bum. Well, David Avanesyan that fought Terence Crawford is the same David Avanesyan that fought Jaron Ennis last night. If he was a stud when he fought Terence Crawford, then he was a stud last night. If he was a bum when he fought Terence Crawford, then he was a bum last night. But regardless, Jaron Ennis now has two fighters on his resume that Terence Crawford has on his resume. Avanesyan and Delerme, who Terence Crawford actually beat for one of his titles at 140 pounds. So regardless, you all need to start putting some respect on Jaron Ennis' name. I'm talking about Terence Crawford fans, because he's fought some of the same fighters Terence Crawford has fought. And again, one was a champion that Terence Crawford won his title from, that you guys talk about and brag about so much. Give that man his due credit, or then you delete you reduce the credit, you erode the credit of Terence Crawford if you're going to make comments like that about Jaron Ennis. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, M Sports Media, and I am